What is up, guys? It is your boy Gerson coming at you with another one. We do have a lot to talk about today. As you guys know, I did miss a little bit from yesterday, so we're gonna try to cover 2 days. The group stage is officially over, guys. That being said, we have already our bracket set up. But before we get into any of that, this is Jers Football 9. Let's talk football. All right, guys. So, as always, before we get started, we're going to talk about a couple of news, rumors, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So, we're going to start off talking about Monaco. They actually are looking into completing the final purchase of Ansu Fati from Barcelona. I know we spoke before about how Barcelona are looking to sell, and this is one of the key things that they will need is the funds from Ansu Fati, and they have also seemed to have reached an agreement to loan out Ter Stegen to Ajax. Okay. Now, switching it off, we're going to talk about Real Madrid. They have officially terminated the contract of Dani Ceballos. As we all know, Jose Mourinho is cleaning house. Okay. Um, they also decided to go ahead and buy back Nico Paz, but only to sell him right back to Como for $60 million. So one of the reasons why they didn't want him back right now was because, well, Nico Paz asked to stay one more year in Como since they will be playing the Champions League this year, and he wasn't guaranteed minutes, right? So basically, what's gonna happen is that they sold him back to Como, but they added a clause that they only have 1 year to activate this clause. If they do not do it by next year, uh, they will not be able to buy him for the amount that is $80 million. I'm sure that if they don't, Nico Paz will actually end up being a player that is worth a lot more based on what he has done this past season, and what he might be doing this season. Okay, staying in the Serie A, guys, AC Milan have agreed to buy Gonzalo Ramos from PSG for a record fee for them of $70 million plus additional fees. Switching off a little bit and going to talk about a little bit of the World Cup, Reece James has suffered a hamstring injury. He might be out for either 1 to 2 games. It is not sure yet. That being said, that is a big loss for the England squad, especially after today. I think that they did struggle a little bit playing against Panama, regardless of their win. Okay. After yesterday's games as well, guys, switching off to the both Nico Paz, I'm sorry, both Nico Williams and Jeremy Pino have suffered injuries. Okay, so Pino is basically out of the World Cup already. He ruptured his collarbone. There's really no coming back into the World Cup from that, and it is still not said how long Nico Paz will. I mean Nico Paz. Oh gosh, we were just talking about him. Nico Williams will be out for. He did suffer a muscle strain. He could be out maybe a couple of games, or he could be out the remainder of the World Cup. I think they're evaluating the severity of the injury, and I'm sure we're going to get more news about that within the coming days. And lastly, before we get started about the World Cup, Granit Xhaka seems to be the player that will be joining the Premier League again, joining Chelsea. So Xabi Alonso did coach him back in Leverkusen. He was a fan of the way that he played, his playing style, and does want him back. That being said, Xhaka apparently does want the move to go through just to have a reunion with his old coach. Okay, so guys, let's talk a little bit about the games from yesterday first. Or if you're watching this on Sunday from 2 days ago, France dominated Norway, as we already know. I think everybody expected a Holland versus Mbappe game, but they decided to give Holland a rest and a couple more of the starting players. France took advantage of that, and not, we have been talking about Kylian Mbappe these first couple of games, but how can we sleep on Mr. Ballon d'Oro, guys? You know, Dembele took over in this game. Okay, he has scored just as much goals as Mbappe in the tournament now. He scored one at the seventh goal, the 20th, and then the 32nd. Okay, Asgard did score one goal for Norway, but that's as far as that goes. Since we have a lot of games to cover, guys, I'm not gonna dive too deep. I'm gonna try to switch on and off a little bit on that, because in this next one I'm gonna be a little bit more deeper in, because we're talking about Spain versus Uruguay. Oh my goodness, guys, this is a little difficult for me because it sucks to see a South American team go, but we can't sit on the fact that this happened, man. So Muslera, what did you do? You know, this is your third mistake in this World Cup. You've had a mistake with both other teams in the group stage, okay? Um, so Bielsa took Muslera out um, after the second half, and it is said that Muslera actually asked to be taken out because he just was lacking the confidence. So in the first half, they shot a rocket at him, basically, right? Uh, some would argue that he wasn't supposed to be a starter at all. Tell me why. Like, he really could have stopped this ball, but he just got scared, and it hit his fingers, and then it just went over him, and it went in. And to think that that's the reason why Uruguay is no longer in this World Cup is crazy. Okay, in the minute 57. Okay, so I'm sure you guys already know about the issues that happened between Uruguay and their coach Biesla. Guys, so before the game, they had a meeting with him, and they basically told him that they didn't like the way he's been coaching them. He's been basically running them crazy. They were exhausted, and they felt like they couldn't do that for this last game because this was a make it or break it, and clearly it was a break it. And one of the main ones that had an issue with what Bielsa was doing was their captain Valverde, and in the 57th minute, Bielsa took Valverde out. Bro, he was out, and he looked furious. He didn't. Oh my God! First of all, how are you gonna take out your star player? If you're trying to tie this match, how are you gonna? Valverde's the type of player that can shoot you a bullet out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it's tied. This is man. Going on in the 90th minute, there was a play inside the box in the Spain area that I felt like could have been called a foul and a penalty, but the ref didn't think it was that serious, I guess. Um, Nonetheless, though, they did give a red card to Canovia after a dangerous play towards the end of the match, although he has come out and stated that he does not think it was that serious. That being said, guys, Uruguay is eliminated. Okay, moving on, guys. Let's talk about Senegal versus Iraq. Senegal, they needed to secure it, right? 5-0, poor Iraq. It's unfortunate. At the fourth minute, Habib Diarra scored the first. Robin Solk in the 13th minute got a red card, which basically set the rest of the game up for Senegal to basically dominate. Sarr scored in the 56th. Gueye scored in the 59th and the 71, and then Ndiaye scored in the 82nd. Dominant win for Senegal, who has been struggling a little bit in this tournament, but they ended it in a good note. Those goals definitely did help them out. Okay. The next game, guys, it was at 0-0, but we gotta talk about Cabo Verde because they made history, guys. We're talking about a team, such a small team, but they were able to hold off Saudi Arabia. And this one, they held off with Spain, and they tied with Uruguay. Guys, Uruguay is officially eliminated, okay? And Cabo Verde are moving on in second place, right behind España. Guys, this is legendary, man. You can't make these things up. This is what the World Cup does, man. All right, moving on, guys. New Zealand versus Belgium. I felt like Belgium struggled a little bit in this game, but at around the 28th minute, Trossard scored the first one off of a corner kick, and he followed it up after the second half at the 50th minute off of a bounce off the defender, and he was able to score his second. De Bruyne scored in the 66, and it was a good shot. It was like a low shot, but it was like a bullet. You already know the way that De Bruyne be playing. I think that he's definitely been a disappointment so far in the campaign, but this was a way to put his name in the march for this World Cup. Um, in the 84th minute, Elijah scored the only goal for New Zealand. But it did not end there, because in the 86th minute, Lukaku um, scored off of a header, and then he passed it right back to the same person that gave him the assist, which was Salamaker, and he assisted him in the 94th minute to seal the game with a 5-1 victory. I'm sorry, New Zealand, it's time to go home. Belgium, you're moving through. And then yesterday we ended it with what was probably to me one of the more exciting and complicated games, which was Egypt versus Iran. Iran can ball, but man, this sucks because they are out as the results of today. So at the 5th minute, Mohamed Saber scored the first goal in the 14th. Rain Resain tied it, but it wasn't until those last couple of plays where Iran scored a goal, and this is a very controversial call. I'm not gonna hop in that whole conversation about the refs and whatever. That's a complicated thing. Nonetheless, though, Iran scored, and for that little bit, they were moving through until VAR made a decision that took the goal away from them. At that point, they basically had to wait in the results for today. And it's pure drama, guys, because today Austria versus Algeria would have defined it. And did it define it, right? Yes, so Iran versus Egypt. Um, Hell of a match. The only thing I will say about it as well is that Mohamed Salah did leave the game, and he might have an injury. I think that there will be more reports coming on about that. So today, guys, we started off with a couple of different games as well. We started off with England versus Panama. I think the first thing to note about this game is that England were struggling. The first half, they were not able to score. I mean, we're talking about a weak Panama team that is already eliminated. If England, a lot of people had England as one of the favorites to win it all, but the way that they have played so far in the tournament, it leaves a lot to be desired, right? But in the second half, Jude Bellingham did score off of a corner. And then 7 minutes after that, Harry Kane had hit the goal off of a header from across. England win 2-0, and they are passing through to the next stage, the round of 16s, okay? Croatia versus Ghana. This was good. This was a good match. I think that everybody thought that Ghana and their juju stuff were gonna come through, but Croatia did have a hell of a match. It started off with a Peter Sufic goal. He shot this bullet from outside, and it started off the game good. And it took all the way to the 73rd minute for Derek Lucasen to tie it with a free kick. It was more like a planned play, right? It was supposed to be a free kick. It was an indirect. They sent it and they scored it. They actually said that it was offside until VAR did get involved and gave him the goal. But at the 83rd minute, just 10 minutes after, Nikola Vlasic scored a header off of a corner kick, and Croatia did win that game, finishing them in second place to move forward, okay? The next game was one of the more anticipated games, which was Colombia versus Portugal. If I'm being honest, guys, Colombia dominated a majority of this game. They actually scored a goal towards the last couple minutes, but VAR did call it off by being offside by basically his big toe, guys. I cannot make these things up. I really can't. That being said, the one point for each team, and Colombia do move forward in first place, which is not what I had listed, but hey, once again, this is what the sport does, right? It shocks you with these random things. Congo versus Uzbekistan. This was a good game for Congo. They I think that they sealed their them moving to the next stage by making sure that they scored these 3 goals. I want to point out also that I think 6 out of the 8 African teams made it through to the next round, which I think is the first time in years. That being said, so in the 10th minute, Sharmadoy chipped it over the goalie. So we started off with Uzbekistan winning, but Congo did not hold back. In the 68th minute, they scored off a penalty, and in the 78th, Mayele scored the goal and sealed it. Yeah. After that, guys, we do have Argentina versus Jordan. Okay, in the 19th minute, Lo Celso scored the first goal. Lautaro Martinez did score the second one off of a penalty, which was a little gnarly because I don't know which player. I want to say De Paul, but I could be wrong. Maybe Lo Celso. They got kicked in the face, and that's what gave him the penalty. And it's funny because Jordan was really trying to debate it, but no, like if you watch the replay, he got kicked in the face. Now, I do feel like one play in the start of the play, when the player that got the ball was offsides, but I do not think that they reviewed that. I could be wrong as well, guys, because they didn't give the replay. They only showed it one time. But that being said, that was the second goal in the 55th minute. Moussa Al Tamari scored the only goal for Jordan, only for Messi to continue his streak and scoring in every single game. In the 80th minute, he has elongated his record now to 18 goals in World Cup history. Shouts out to Messi, man. Goat status. And Algeria versus Austria, guys. 3-3. This was the match that was going to decide if Iran was going to make it through. And it felt like it, right? First and foremost, I want to point out that Riyad Mahrez has come back. I think he was basically missing in his first two games, right? But he scored 2 goals today. That being said, let's get you from order, right? So the 28th minute, Austria scored from Marko Arnautovic. Algeria scored in the 45th minute. Benghazi. Austria countered it in 55th minute by a goal by Sabitzer. Algeria scored with Riyad Mahrez. And then Riyad Mahrez scored again in the 93rd minute, guys. At this point, everybody thought it was over. Austria was going to be eliminated. Iran were moving through. But at the 96th minute, guys, Austria tied it. And this has to be the game of the tournament, man. Algeria 3, Austria 3. It's over, guys. The group stage is officially over. It feels like it happened so fast. But that's the part about this tournament, man. It comes, it goes. That being said, guys, I think that there are some surprise teams that got eliminated. I mean, South Korea was one of the first ones. I didn't have them being eliminated, but they are eliminated. Scotland is eliminated. Czechia is eliminated. Iran is eliminated. Panama, Uzbekistan, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay, New Zealand, Tunisia, Curacao, Turkey, Haiti, and Qatar. If I was a betting man, I'd be in debt right now. Luckily, I did not bet on my bracket because I would have already lost half of it. But before that, guys, that being said, these are the set games for the brackets, okay? So, round of 16, we have Germany versus Paraguay, France versus Sweden, South Africa versus Canada, Netherlands versus Morocco, Portugal versus Croatia, España versus Austria, USA versus Bosnia, Belgium versus Senegal, Brazil versus Japan, Ivory Coast versus Norway, Mexico versus Ecuador, England versus the Democratic Republic of Congo, Argentina versus Cape Verde, Australia versus Egypt, Switzerland versus Algeria, and then Colombia versus Ghana. I think that the games that excite me the most have to be Brazil versus Japan. I also think that Belgium versus Senegal is going to be good. What's the other one that I saw? Oh, Netherlands versus Morocco is going to be fire. I already know it. And Ivory Coast versus Norway is gonna be real interesting. I go for Ivory Coast, but we can't sit here and act like we don't like doing the quick little ooh. Come on, Norway. Y'all hit us with a gem. That being said, guys, depending on the time that you will be watching this video, I think it's going to be the day of. Today is the first game of the round of 16s. Canada versus South Africa. Now, guys, if I'm going to go ahead and give you a prediction, let's talk about Canada. I think that they will go on and win this game at least 3-0. So that is my bet. Canada wins 3-0. Thank you so much, South Africa, for coming and joining us. That being said, it's time to move on. Anyways, guys, that is everything that I have for you today. It was your boy Gers coming at you with another one. And man, gotta love the World Cup, right? Peace.